Hey there, Columbus community. I was determined not to allow a month to set before I responded to your request for a video answering some of the questions that remain when we ran out of time at our Squad Goals event in June. So here goes. I'm going to do my best to answer these questions to kind of group them together. But again, all my love, and lean in and listen. Okay, so questions number one, I'm going to try to categorize them. So I seem to have several questions right here that deal with making friendships. So let me just kind of read them in general. It says it seems hard to make friends at an older age. How do I make them? Another question similarly says, if you don't have a squad, what are some ways to build those female friendships? And then another one is simply along the same lines. How do you create friendships, especially when you're accustomed to kind of being a loner and doing your own thing? So let me just attempt to answer that one first. Let me do that biblically. Biblically, and quite honestly, naturally, the Bible says that he who has friends must first show himself friendly. And so in that's a very simple application. Show yourself friendly. And that doesn't necessarily mean, especially for those of us who have more introverted tendencies, and I use us graciously because that doesn't really fit me, but for those who have more introverted or more private type of tendencies, and you're just not a person who's like out and about gravitating towards everyone. When the Bible says he who has friends must first show himself friendly, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to pretend and become this like large social butterfly. But you can be very clear about what a good friend is to you, your definition of friend. And so in that, if that's being loving, if that's being considerate, if that's being a good listener, if that's being loyal, if that's being faithful, whatever being a good friend is to you, you can begin to be that person even the more intentionally with people who are in your life or in your spirit, in your circle, or even people that you just encounter with an intention or desire to develop good friendships. I don't want us to mistake being friendly with having to be an extrovert or having to garner up energy to be around a whole bunch of people or to have to be the life of the party to get friends. Being friendly doesn't necessarily mean that. Being friendly is being those characteristics that lean towards making good friendships. So that's how I would say that. Just be the things to other people that you are looking for in a friend. Now, before you go there and say, I've tried that before and it didn't quite work out, I would say, and then ask God, layer two, to give you discretion on where to expend that energy and that effort. You can ask God to show you who to interact with, who else is looking for friends just like I'm looking for friends. Or you can choose safer places. Like there's some places that you're going to be more apt to find someone who is like-minded with you. So whether you like to cook, you may desire to go to a cooking class and be intentional about developing a friendship with someone with a similar interest, or you may go to a swimming class, or you may even confide in a trustworthy person, like maybe your small group leader at church, or just someone that you've noticed that in a trusting manner, who you can say, hey, I'm trying to develop a friendship. So no matter the age or the stage, each of us can choose to demonstrate the characteristics that we are looking for in friendships. We can layer that with prayer. As a third layer, we can layer that with reaching out to people and even confiding in some people that we trust, that I'm being intentional about wanting to build some friendships. So hopefully that gives you a little insight on that. If you don't have friendships, if you're trying to build new friendships, and even if you're older, how do you lean into that the more? And I'm going to tell you, if you're looking for an easy, quick way to get solid, good friendships, it doesn't really work like that. There are people you may naturally click with, people that you may naturally gravitate towards the more, but you're still going to have to do the work of showing yourself friendly. So that's the answer to that. Let's see. Had quite a few, probably the most, on how to kind of navigate when friendships begin to change. And they really do. Sometimes the synergy, the cadence, the energy, the life pattern, the schedule of people who are involved in different friendships, they begin to change. And if we're not careful, we can take that with offense. Sometimes it's just the natural ebb and flow of the changing dynamics of people's lives. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes there's an evolution of one and not the other, or evolution of both. And the life rhythm or whatever began to grow apart, but it doesn't mean that the heart has to grow apart. And I'm going to repeat that. Just because the rhythm grows apart does not mean that the heart has to grow apart. Pause right there. Just because the rhythm grows apart does not mean that the heart has to grow apart. So here are some of the questions there. Do you believe that friendships can change? No negative issues, just not the same intensity. Absolutely. And I think what I just said kind of captures that. The rhythm can grow apart. The heart doesn't have to. Do you have suggestions for exiting toxic friendships? Yes, I would just say that you alone know what your current activity is with a particular person, and you alone know even what your conversations are like with a particular person. So, first, I would say conversation. Now, I don't know the specifics, so you may have already attempted to talk to the person. You may have already attempted to try to bring some resolution to whatever your concern is that makes you describe the friendship as now toxic. And if you're finding that that conversation is not working, you may determine to distance yourself or to disengage, and that may be a seasonal disengagement. That may be a long-term disengagement. I mean, you have to know the specifics of the dynamics, but in that, then you really make the choice to do it. You can start again with conversation, trying to bring about resolution. You can determine based on track record that you've been here before, been here repeatedly, not currently in a space to expend extra energy and effort trying to rectify this again and again and again. And so then you begin to disengage. So maybe perhaps you were originally like hanging out with the person every day or talking to them every week, and you determine just not going to do that. And so you don't, as I've said even in the presentations, you don't have to make grand announcements to the person. You just begin to deactivate your activity. You call less or you answer less, because in making healthy friendship choices, it's not about making announcements to other people about how wrong they have been as friends. It's about you examining you, determining what type of friend you're trying to be, what type of company you're trying to keep, and what makes you well as well. Because in friendships, we have a right to be well as well. We have a right to be well as well. So that's where I would say you start molding differently how you engage. Okay. And I have another one that is very similar to that. Like, how do you get out of bad friendships? And again, it's that thing. You evaluate whether you're trying to do this seasonally or you're trying to do this long term, trying to do this forever. And you begin to change your activity. Again, don't spend energy trying to change the other person. If you have already, for what is determined to be what you thought was a good person for your life, and you've already attempted to have conversations to bring about resolution because it's a person you wanted to maintain a positive relationship with, and that hasn't helped, then you can begin to work on your steps to disengage from that. But if it is a friendship that was never wholesome or helpful or added value to your life to begin with, I always say you don't make announcements, you just start changing your activity. Okay. How do you walk away from a long-term friendship that needs to end? That one is definitely worthy of a conversation. Again, especially if it is a long-term friendship, then I believe that person is kind of owed some type of understanding about why you are disengaging from their life. Again, if there's no place of resolution, or if it's just time because things, you've evolved or changed and they really haven't, or your lives are heading in two different directions, or you made that friend at a different stage of your life and you're no longer that person trying to make those choices, engage in those activities, then longevity of a relationship doesn't necessitate that person being a good friend for your life right now. So, especially if that friend participated in activities or behaviors that you know you're no longer trying to engage in, then you literally have to walk away. You have to disengage. If possible, you may be able to have a conversation explaining why. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to evolve to a different place and that long term connection, soul tie, for lack of a better word, is not good for you, there is no easy way to say eventually you will have to walk away. And that's what you determine to do. As said previously in the video, you start staggering, layering, deactivating your activity unless it's so detrimental, honestly, that you need to cut it off right away. And sometimes we have to. What is the effective way to switch friends but still be Christian and love like Christ? The effective way to switch friends, and that's on that part when we said it is okay to have expectations for friends to be able at times to be on the mat, excuse me, but at other times to carry you on the mat. And how do you switch? Conversations. It's going to take a lot of setting of expectations. For people who are already in your friend group, being able to articulate what you need and what you can do to add value yourself. It is okay to be able to add value. It is also okay to need. And you're going to have to articulate those expectations, especially if you've hung with people for a long time or had these dynamics where people really didn't expect you to need anything. You were always the strong person. Well, you're going to have to teach them how to treat you. You're going to have to teach them how to interact with you. Okay, so you would set those expectations and you can do them in a very cordial conversation. You can also sometimes just declare, I'm taking a time out. And sometimes that's the best way to be Christian, is not to wait until you're so frustrated that you just go off on people. But you can know yourself and mentally say, because I want to be Christ-like, I'm gonna back off from interacting for a moment because I don't feel as if I'm getting what I need, and I'm not in such a good space to be able to give out. It's okay to put the air mask on yourself and to pause. All of that is very much Christ-like. That's better than going off on people and not being Christ-like. So again, I would say communicate your expectations and then begin to govern, tweak your actions accordingly. If you are in a group where you cannot ask for a switch or to be carried, then quite honestly, you need to shift your inner core. Because in the inner core, we're not talking about your associates, not talking about the loose people who fit in our loose language of friendships. We're literally talking about your inner core, the people that you need to be able to depend on. If you're finding and looking throughout that core that you can't do that, then you should probably switch your inner core, or you have to assess yourself and you have to say, have I asked to be carried so many times that now I'm like the friend in the group who cries wolf? What people know that you always need something, always need to be carried. Then you're going to have to carry more to teach people that you are in this inner circle, well able to carry your weight. And then when you ask for help, your cry for help is legitimate. So just depending, because you don't like have to argue back at the screen with me. You know you, and you know how you have been in those friendships. So either you have taught people that it is okay to never have to carry you, and you will have to do the work of reteaching them, or you have taught people that you always ask to be carried, and now you no longer can ask because they just really don't believe it. Either way, there's going to be some reteaching there. Should you ever provide a grace period for friends who cannot carry well? I think so. I think, especially if they are going through some traumatic type of experience or situation like a death or a divorce, a bankruptcy, or just anything that depletes a person and leaves them with very little to give, then I think a grace period could be appropriate. Or if it's just a moment where you're teaching them what you need, a grace period could be appropriate. And you would have to determine that on an individual basis for the people who are in your inner core and look at their track record and how they've been. If they've served you well as a friend for years and have carried and done their fair share, and then all of a sudden they're in a dark place, then you get that. And so, yes, a grace period, I say, would be acceptable. And this other one that kind of falls in there is, what if you call to see about people, but they never call to see about you? I think that you will have to be clear on who those people are. What role are those people playing in your life? For example, there are people groups in my life for whom that's what I do. I am either their mentor, or I'm their aunt, and they're my little nieces and nephews, or they are people who I have sensed from the Lord that I'm supposed to pour into in some capacity, or I'm in leadership. And so that's what I do. I know that I'm going to pour into them, probably call them, check on them. They won't even think to say, yes, sis, and how are you doing? And auntie, how are you doing? I don't even really expect it. I don't get that from there. But in my inner group, I'm very careful to ensure that just in natural dynamics, as I pour out and as they pour out, it's a reciprocated effect. And so if you're talking about your inner group, then it allows you to really say, have I articulated to them, or have I taught them that I have needs too, and this is the type of responses that I would like to have? Or am I assuming that I know? Like, you give them all the benefit of the belief and see if you've communicated expectations and those things appropriately. On the other side of it, if after doing those things, you note that nothing about their interactions with you change, then you may have to determine that, you may have to determine that this is not the correct inner group for you. And sometimes that's hard because we want to have the right inner group, and we want it oftentimes to be the people that we're already coexisting with, but that really may not be our group. Let's see. If a friend hurts me really badly, should I give them another chance? Again, I say that's on an individual basis. It really depends on more of the history and the context of you and that friend, because there will be hurt in friendships, and there are things that are really difficult, but you can forgive and get past. So I think it's you being able to separate character from circumstance. Circumstance is, this thing happened. It's like the first time that it's ever happened, didn't know that this person was capable, so far from who this person has demonstrated themselves to be. They are remorsefully sorry for the behavior, would not want to repeat it ever again. They were in a really low place, and there are just all kinds of things around that circumstances that set that particular thing up, and a friend may have fell short. And then there are other instances where you can look at the character, and the character says that you do this is what you do. And so in those scenarios, while you're not obligated to engage in the friendship at the same level for either, you can choose to do so if your heart can forgive and productively interact with that person in a friendship level, because it was a circumstance and it's not necessarily a character flaw that this person is prone to do repeatedly that wounds your heart. Again, though, these questions require so much more detail, so I can't give you an exact, but just in general, for something like this where you've been hurt deeply, I would lean into examining whether it was a character issue or a circumstance issue. A circumstance is like once, it's like, this isn't a repeated behavior. A character issue is, this person will probably do this over and over and over again, and I'm just going to hold steady. I'm going to disengage, okay? So we have just a few more. I'm going to look down real quick, get them organized, and come right back. Alrighty then, I am back with the next part of the question. So this is about, I want to say, diversification in our squads, kind of like we have diversified financial portfolios, or we should. So this question is, how do we diversify our squads? Can your squad be men and women? Do you only need 4? That type of thing. And so my answer to that would be that yes, it is absolutely appropriate to have diversified squads, to have more than one squad, to have squads that serve different purposes. So I definitely have squads that are like for accountability groups, and they have male and female, right? And then I have squads that are like my run group, and it's just the ones of us who are interested in running. And then I have squads that are like my travel buddies, and they're easy to travel with, and they're ready to pick up and go. And then I have squads that are totally chill out, like they don't need me to mentor them, pray over them, do any kind of whatever with them. They are my chill out type of squad. So one, can we have diversification in squads, more than one type of squad? Absolutely, because we have different needs in our lives. I have a prayer group squad. They are my prayer partners. They will pray me through, but they don't want to go shopping, and I don't travel with them. They're specifically according to the variations of phases and in places and spaces in my life, and vice versa. So yes, you can definitely have a diversification of your squads. Men and women can be in your squads. Do you only need 4? I think that in that particular Bible illustration, it was the 4 men, probably because of the 4 corners of the mat and what they were attempting to do. But I don't think there's anything particularly significant about just the number 4. Now, do I think you're going to have like an inner core of people, and it's about 38 people? I would say an inner core would probably be more quality over quantity. Absolutely, but 4 specifically, I don't think there's any significance to that particular number. And then the other one is, yes, can you have different squads, different reasons, different seasons? Absolutely so. Let's see. A main one again that I have here always deals with family. What if the competition is with family? Sad to say, but sometimes it is. Yeah. And so I would say, as in the presentation, you still address it as you would any other friendship dynamics. It just happens to be a family member where you listen, and you listen through the lens of what they'll do, non-exempt, what they will do to one, they'll do it to me. Or are you listening and you watch and you see if when you accomplish things, are they celebrating? And sometimes they're just not. And so you handle that accordingly, as you would with a friendship group. You begin to govern yourself accordingly, govern yourself with an awareness. Again, not seeking to change the family member, but definitely changing the dynamics that you may have with that particular family member. And then another one is back to the whole garnering new friendships. And if you're the person who kind of keeps yourself from being more deeply engaged with people, are you your own enemy? Quite possibly, because again, the Bible says, he who has friends must first show himself friendly, and not just friendly in like being an extrovert and demonstrating that type of behavior, but friendly through the lens of you demonstrate to people that you want to engage with them, and you also represent the characteristics that would make a good friend. So I encourage you again to run through the questions, see if there's anything that you still need some insight on. You would be more than welcome to comment in the spaces down below. I'll be checking, especially since it's my Columbus group, and I love you all. Got mad love, big love for you. Thank you again for allowing me to share with you and to follow up on all of these questions. Thanks again to Miss Rachel Ricks for hosting and having me come, and Mimi Jackson, who was so gracious and have the absolute best eyebrows, and just to a host of you who've reached out to me and continue to give love. If you would please do me a favor, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel right here, and then also to stay looped in on blogs, other updates, insights that I provide to know when new Bible studies and things like that are coming out, you can jog right on over to the website. It's going to be on the last slide at www.drginalyn.com and subscribe. All of these things help me to continue to expand my platform and give me outlets with which to do the thing that I'm created to do. I want to help honor the greatness in other people. So yeah, do that for me, please. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, then jog right on over there to www.drginalyn.com and subscribe there as well. And I'm on all other social media platforms. So thanks a lot. Take care. Bye now. Hey, I honor the greatness in you. Be great. If you would please do me a favor, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel right here, and then also to stay looped in on blogs, other updates, insights that I provide to know when new Bible studies and things like that are coming out. You can jog right on over to the website. It's going to be on the last slide at www.drginalyn.com and subscribe. All of these things help me to continue to expand my platform and give me outlets with which to do the thing that I'm created to do. I want to help honor the greatness in other people. So yeah, do that for me, please. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, then jog right on over there to www.drginalyn.com and subscribe there as well. And I'm on all other social media platforms. So thanks a lot. Take care. Bye now. Hey, I honor the greatness in you. Be great.